Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time we've got the pleasure of watching Warbowl 1 playing in the Tier 8 German tank destroyer, the Ferdinand, one of the most popular vehicles in the game. A lot of people go straight towards that Jagdpanther E100 line, and then when they reach Tier 8, some people are happy to be in this Ferdinand, some people are not happy to be in it. Thinking about it, how many Tier 8 German tank destroyers are there in the game? Obviously you've got the Ferdinand, the Jagdpanther II, the Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträger. Also, you've got the Jagdtiger 88, a retired premium tank. You've also got the Kanonen Jagdpanzer now in there. And you've also got a vehicle that is likely to come out sometime as the Rheinmetall Scorpion, which I managed to play at Gamescom if any of you guys were watching, and you can even find a video of that on this channel if you have no idea what I'm talking about. So the Ferdinand, why am I doing a video on it now of all times? I've never done a video on it before on the channel. And that's because recently it just got a buff in patch 9.13. So I'm trying to revisit all of these vehicles that Wargaming have shown a little bit of love to for whatever reason. And what better way to do that than the fantastic round that Warbowl 1 is going to have in this game. And why not? He's top tier. Unfortunately for him, there's a couple of artillery on the enemy team though. And they're in a platoon, they might coordinate, and the Ferdinand, like many tank destroyers, doesn't take hits from artillery very well. But it does have a massive 128mm gun. And I have no idea how his 246, I believe, 246mm of penetration was unable to go through the side of that Centurion there. That Centurion should count himself very lucky indeed. And that's because the alpha damage on this 128mm is 490. As we see there, the first damaging shot, the Centurion 7-1 nearly said. The Centurion 1 loses 498 hit points. That tier 8 British medium tank not feeling so well. And when you've got this much penetration at tier 8, that's enough to challenge even the turret of a very heavily armored Japanese heavy tank like the Oh-Ho. And he shuts him down. Great result there, taking him out in a couple of shots. So I was talking about the buffs to the Ferdinand before. Warbowl very rudely interrupted me by starting to play well. So the rate of fire was marginally increased. It went from 5 rounds a minute to 5.13 rounds a minute. That's a buff of 2.5%. Of course, that's something, right? 2.5% brings this tank in line with the Jagdpanther II, which is probably one of the reasons why they decided to give this that marginal rate of fire increase. So it now has the same rate of fire as a tank which kind of, you have a choice of either playing the Ferdinand or playing the Jagdpanther II if you want to try and progress up through the line. And a lot of people prefer the Jagdpanther II because of its mobility, and also the fact that the upper part of the armor, the superstructure on the Jagdpanther II, is very well angled and awesome. But what the Ferdinand has that the Jagdpanther II doesn't is some awesome frontal armor, 200mm to be exact, and 80mm of side protection, whereas I believe the Jagdpanther II gets 60mm. And that's nothing to shrug at. Having that little bit of extra armor really can help when you're in a top tier matchup like this. That's more than enough to easily bounce that SU-122-44, even if he's likely to fire his premium ammunition. And just check out what this 128mm gun does to its opponents. It certainly doesn't leave them with many hit points left. And talking about hit points, that leads me on to the next aspect of the Ferdinand that was buffed in patch 9.13. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner, you might be quite surprised to see that this tank now has 1,500 hit points. That's 300 more than previously. Previously, this vehicle had 1,250 hit points. So that buff of 300 has added 25% onto its life pool. And that's a huge increase of durability on this vehicle. When you combine that with that marginal rate of fire, there's never been a better time to play this Tier 8 German tank destroyer, one of the oldest in the game, one of the originals. So, Warbowl has already kicked a lot of butt here, 3,000 damage into this game, and his platoon mate, looks like his name was Floris, unfortunately just got caught out, surrounded by a Jagdtiger 88, the T-34 85, and a Super Pershing on the enemy team. But Warbowl has to be careful here. If he exposes himself, there's no doubt that the enemy artillery are going to be able to pick apart his, although increased health pool rather quickly indeed. when you're getting shot by tier 7 tier 7 self-propelled guns like there are on the enemy team, it doesn't matter if you've got pretty darn good thick armor like the Ferdinand has, and a good slug of hit points now. Even more than a Jagdpanther 88. How crazy is that? A Jagdpanther 88, which had 1,300, doesn't feel so special anymore. So Warball has decided that he needs to fall back. He needs to get into a defensive position where hopefully he can avoid taking hits from the enemy artillery, something that's very important to do when you're playing this tank, and then engage the whole wealth of opponents that are coming down that eastern flank. There's a super Pershing, the T-34-85, that also a second reward tank, that T-28 HTC that he has to be concerned about. So you might be concerned when you meet a Ferdinand in, say, like a tier 6 or tier 7 tank, and I'm really sorry to do this for all you Ferdinand drivers out there, but I'm now going to show you the weak point of this tank, which makes it so easy to penetrate. And as we can see up here, it's the corners, it's the cheeks. When the Ferdinand angles his armor, or even if he doesn't angle the armor, there's this whole area on the front of the tank, which is 80 millimeters. And basically very flat. If he angles his tank, trying to increase or exaggerate the angling on his frontal armor, which is 200 millimeters thick. Oh, disaster there. Warball was unable to hit the cupolas of the Super Pershing. And so that really is your #1 ticket to being able to take this tank out, and to take out a Tiger P, even without premium ammunition, on any tank that this vehicle can meet. That's one of the reasons why I don't enjoy this vehicle, because if somebody's knowledgeable, then they can just rip you apart. Oh, unlucky there. Looks like the Super Pershing angled his tracks just in time to stop Warball from being able to penetrate his vehicle. One thing that the Ferdinand has that not a lot of people realize as well is 8 degrees of gun depression. That's remarkable gun depression on this tank, which allows you to get tricky shots over ridge lines just like that. Great shot into that Super Pershing. The Ferdinand wasn't spotted, and it was only when he fired that the Super Pershing got a nice little glimpse on him. Great shot into the top part of the tank. That's another vehicle that I don't really enjoy playing because of the weak points. Any vehicle which sacrifices mobility to be able to gain armor, but still has what I call horrible targets to shoot on top of the vehicle, just doesn't really do it for me. Talking about well-armored tanks, here is a T-28 HTC. Unfortunately, Warball puts a shot into the ground and doesn't shoot at that Crusader SP on the enemy team. That could come back to haunt him. That tier 7 self-propelled gun is likely to get some good shots. However, Warball goes forwards into the bushes. Now the bushes are transparent so he can see the Crusader. Oh gosh, he finishes him off. Great result. But unfortunately, the Crusader also hit him for 374 damage. That was a huge amount of his hit points that have fallen. Also, Warball sees that he's now alone with a self-propelled gun behind him and that he has to go forward, otherwise he's going to get flanked by the Tiger II. He takes his chances, he goes forwards. Luckily for him, that tier 7 American tank destroyer was firing high explosive rounds, and so he only takes 95 damage. Probably shooting up into the lower plate of the Ferdinand, which is quite weak. The T-28 HTC could have done 320 average damage to him, which would have put him on a one-shot for the Tiger II. However, Warball needs to get himself out of that situation. He could get slapped by the Lorraine 15550 on the enemy team, who was in a platoon with the Crusader SP, so plays aggressively and takes that Tiger II down. Here's a Ferdinand on the enemy team. Right into the lower plate. Another weak point on the Ferdinand. I believe 80 millimeters of armor on the lower plate. But he angles his armor well, and the enemy Ferdinand doesn't know about the weak point apparently, and so that allows Warball to shut him down with a shot to the superstructure. That superstructure has got 200 millimeters of penetration, but when you've got 246 penetration on the standard rounds of the Ferdinand, that's more enough to go through. But talking about standard rounds, now Warball is bringing out the big ammunition. He's firing the APCR rounds, hasn't fired a single one until this point of the game. 311 millimeters of penetration, and that is more than enough to go through even the thickest armor of any tank that you could possibly meet, even tier 10 vehicles. Now, of course, Warball is top tier here, and it's only a Jagdpanther 88 that he's shooting at. But with these premium rounds, he can just butter right through it, taking off 78% of the hit points of that Jagdpanther, who tries to ram him, bounces off Warball, and Warball shuts him down with a good shot into the cheeks. Good knowledge of the superstructure of his tank and on the similar design on the Jagdpanther 88. Now, where's that artillery? Oh my word, he's right there. Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, gosh, that was close. Thank goodness we didn't have a heartbreak in this game. And Warbowl secures his 10th kill of this round and nearly 7,000 damage done. What a great last stand. Outnumbered, but simply not outgunned with the huge caliber armament that this tier 8 German tank destroyer gets. So what a fantastic result for Warbowl 1 in his Ferdinand here. He did pretty much everything right, showcasing the strengths of this tier 8 German tank destroyer. He always relocated to get to the position that he needed to be in before his opponents got there. And when you're in quite an immobile tank destroyer, such as this vehicle, that's one of the key aspects to having successful rounds. I really do like the model of the Ferdinand now it's in HD. It truly is a very pretty tank, but I probably wouldn't call this tank pretty to its face, otherwise it might have something to say with its 128mm armament. So let's just take a very quick look at the post-game stats. What a huge game here, 15,505 experience as this happened during a 5 times for the first win of the day event. Warbowl also secured 92,000 credits. He did fire a few APCR rounds, but that's still 45,000 credits profit. Great result. Warbowl secured a pools medal for the final kill of this game, a high caliber, unsurprisingly, for nearly 7,000 damage done. Also a defender medal for defending his base, to be exact, with 87 base defense points and a steel wall. How much did he block this game? 2,020, 11 shots received, and he still had enough hit points at the end of the game to take at least a round or two. Well, maybe not from that self-propelled gun that nearly took him apart. Warbowl 1, thank you so much for sending me this replay. It truly showcases what the newly buffed Ferdinand is capable of. And it certainly derails the argument that it's probably better to play with the Jagdpanther II to get to the Jagdtiger rather than the Ferdinand. I'd say now both of them are very competitive tanks that just favor different playstyles. And so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider giving it a like down below. It really helps the channel out. And if you want to see what I was talking about with the Rheinmetall Scorpion that I got to play at Gamescom, then simply click up here or use that more info icon in the top right hand corner of your screen. And also let me know in the comments down below what you think about the Ferdinand, especially in light of these buffs that it's had in patch 9.13. How do you feel the vehicle compares directly to the Jagdpanther II? Not so much how it compares to the Borsig, that's an entire different tank line altogether. But what tank would you recommend to a player wanting to know how to get to the Jagdtiger? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.